Welcome back to the Adventure Paradox podcast. I am thrilled to invite Michelle Thames to our show today. She is a visibility strategist, an award-winning podcaster, and CEO of a powerhouse marketing consultancy, helping multi-passionate women entrepreneurs turn their expertise into income. I was just checking her out on all the socials, by the way, and she is a total boss. A little more before we hear from you, Michelle. After transforming her own journey from healthcare employee to thriving digital entrepreneur, Michelle has become a sought-after voice in personal branding and organic marketing strategy. She has over 16 years of experience. She's helped startups scale to household names. She's built influencer programs from scratch and coached hundreds of women to confidently show up and monetize their message. She is also the host of the globally ranked Social Media Decoded podcast, where she breaks down the latest strategies in digital marketing and personal branding with clarity and fun. She's also the founder of Elevate and Empower, a high impact coaching community that equips women entrepreneurs with the tools to grow their visibility, build premium offers, and get paid for their expertise without burning out. Known for her realness, strategy first mindset, and empowering voice, Michelle brings a unique blend of business savvy and mentorship to every client and platform she touches. Ready to hear her mission? To help you simplify your marketing, get seen by the right people, and build a brand that pays you consistently. Welcome to the show, Michelle. Like, wow, what a bio. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Let's go back to the roots. How did it start? You have this transition from being one person. You always joke we've got like the avatars, right? Like this was my healthcare era, And now you're in this incredible digital marketing space, helping all these folks. Can you take us back to like the pivot, that moment where it all started?
Yeah, so I went to school, got the master degree in healthcare administration, and in 2016 I was fired from my job just one random day, fired from my job, and I was like, "Wow, this is real." I had never been fired before, but luckily for me, during that time I had started a lifestyle and beauty blog and a YouTube channel. And so I was crushed and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do?" But I decided to really go in on my passions of writing, being a freelance writer, really going in on my YouTube channel. And so I pivoted. I pivoted into freelancing and social media, doing some social media management for some companies. And I was able to actually get a job for a startup beauty brand as their first social media and digital marketing manager back in 2017. And I was like, this is perfect, right? I do not have a master's degree or any type of degree in marketing. And I got to, get this amazing opportunity to learn more about digital marketing. I was able to help the company reach over 500,000 followers on Instagram alone, events. I put together events. I got to see the inside of just the inner workings of business. And I was like, you know what? I can totally help more people. And so in 2019, I decided to step away from that position after being there 2 years to start a marketing agency with my husband. And now we are a media company helping women entrepreneurs to really get visible, leveraging social media and beyond, from podcasting to speaking at events to PR. We really just help with that visibility tool. And it's been a crazy ride, but also, like you said, that was a previous life. I feel like you go to school, you get the degree, you do everything you're supposed to do, but then sometimes it just doesn't turn out to be what you were actually called to do. And so in this work, I feel more fulfilled because every day I get to wake up and do podcasts. And like today, this is part of my job. I'm here on your podcast. And this is just every day I get blown away and say, wow, like you're actually doing this. And so that's kind of how I got started with this online world. It's been 16 years. And so I'm just excited to continue to share with more people how you can use social media to get visible.
Ah, so good, Michelle. So good. And yeah, it's really got me thinking about, I don't remember the exact statistic, but something like only 7% of people are wired to be entrepreneurs. And I was watching one of your posts, and you were talking about being present with your family. And it's ironic because as entrepreneurs, we can control our own hours, but then we can also be out with our family, at a ball game, and like all we're thinking about is tomorrow, big day. I never got that email back. Oh no, I got it. I'm gonna go to the bathroom and like be dealing with this, right? And I loved this share because you basically said something to the effect of, my whole reason for having this business, yes, I'm serving all of these folks, and this is my calling, but it's also to really be present with my family. Will you touch on that? Because I found that really profound.
Yes, and actually I'm going through this pivot right now. So as you're asking that post was really real and raw, and I was kind of nervous actually to share that. Starting my digital marketing agency, it was a lot of done for you work, right? When I left that job, I was so ingrained in doing a lot of social media management, managing different accounts and things like that. So I completely automatically jumped into that as soon as I started my business. And while that work is fulfilling, social media management can also be a type of job that feels very demanding and very stressful at times. And so, after doing that for 4 years, working very closely with clients, we worked with beauty brands, travel businesses, insurance firms, car dealerships. We work with a ton of different brands. And just over the last year, I've started to feel like it was a job. Like I would be checking my phone and feeling like, oh my God, if this doesn't, this comment, like we got to respond right away, and like having panic attacks, to be honest. And I was like, this isn't good, right? Okay, I didn't start this business to do this. Like I didn't start this business to feel this way. And some way along the journey, just the message skewed, right? I feel like I didn't want to do that specific business anymore. And that is okay, right? Because I have already been building my personal brand. And so I wanted to focus more on building what I have, my personal brand, my podcast, my events, my retreats, and helping other women do the same thing. And so I said, you know what, let's take a step back from this type of client work and really go all in on my personal brand. I kind of want to think about it like Martha Stewart or Oprah Winfrey, right? They are the brand. They have media companies and they also help other people do the exact same thing that they do. And why can't I do that? And I said, that's the business model that I really want to have. And I really enjoy events and retreats and bringing people together. I'm a natural born connector. And so, to be honest, God came to me and said, you need to fall back on really doing what it is that you want to do and burn this digital marketing agency. I don't want to say burn it to the ground, but kind of sort of burn it to the ground and really go forward with everything that you are building with your media company and retreats and events and all those things. And so, yes, that post is super raw and real. I'm in the middle of this pivot right now, leaning more into digital products. I'm doing weekly webinars. I know that sounds crazy to some people, like weekly webinars. Absolutely, because they work. It's a really great lead generation tool for my business. I'm a natural host. I can host events. I just got off of an event before I got on this call with you. And so I'm leaning into my skills and my gifts. And that's what I want to help other women too with, leaning into your skills and gifts, but it has to work for you and your business.
So good. Dean Graziosi, who's, buddy with whatever, Tony Robbins, he says something about like, figure out what makes you feel better, do more of that, and then figure out what doesn't make you feel so good and do less of that, something like that. And I feel like so many women listening and folks who have this dream of like having their own business and being their own boss and all of these things, they're not at the space of really hearing from those who have gone the distance and also enough to pivot and re-hone in on what's actually really important, like what really does matter, and using your gifts. Like I love hearing that you're doing weekly webinars and how those are working. And I love hearing, and I feel like it needs to be a new movie or tag or handle, but like natural born connector. I love that. Like I love that. And I think especially as women, we are connectors. Like we are so relational, and so often we're in our families, like co-regulating everybody, right? And everything. And then you add a business to that, and it's like, of course, panic attack, right? Like your story is my story, is our story, is, and so like getting to the space of really, I feel like pulling back the curtain and showing folks, hey, this is what it looks like, especially when you get to that beautiful success. And then it can kind of start to work you, right? So when folks are coming to you and they're in that space, do you have any like processes or things you do? And I really want to get to the paradox of social media and like, that it's this thing that can connect us, but we can also be so disconnected by it and all the stats about like being on screens and scrolling and what it's doing to our brains and all of that stuff. Like I definitely want to go there, but maybe first, if you want to share with us when someone comes to you and they're in this space of, this is what I want, but this is what's not working. Like, how do you work with others on that?
Yeah, when women come to me, it's usually about visibility and using social media in the right way. So I know we're going to touch on that, but how I approach social media is like a strategy. Social media is a tool.
Hmm.
I like to say, let's not look at it as, oh my gosh, look at Susie. She's over here in a Benz and a Bentley. A lot of people do share that lifestyle type marketing, right? To draw you in because most people want that. They want the luxury, they want the glitz and the glam, but I like to just come at it from a real lens, to be honest, right? And when people come to me, what makes you feel good? If it's not Instagram and showing up on video, the platform may not be for you, but you may want to share on LinkedIn and that like fits more with what you do. I think too many people are trying to force a platform to fit their lifestyle, but they don't really like video or they don't really, like to, show up on LinkedIn or Facebook. They don't like to use those tools. So I like to say, really think about what tool will work best for your business and your life, right? I love being on video. I love Instagram. I've been on it since it started. And so it's just a part of my strategy. I also have a podcast. Just like podcasting is a very powerful way to help you build your personal brand. Okay. So you don't have to have video. You can just have an audio podcast like me. Like I started with video, but then I was like, I just want this to be audio. So, really helping women decide what avenue works best for them. And my specialty is helping them create their digital ecosystem. So, you have an ecosystem that works for you. You don't have to post every day. I'm not on that bandwagon. We're not posting every day. If I don't have anything to say, I'm not even going to post on social media. I have a strategic way that I use social media to get leads, right? Someone asked me the other day, oh, Michelle, what's your amount of time that you spend like follow ups and following up with people? And I said, that's a large part of the portion of what I do on a consistent basis is following up, sending messages, sending people messages on social media. I invite them into my world. I don't cold DM, but if you responded to a poll, if you sent me a DM, if you sent me an email, if you engage with my content, I'm going to reach out and let's have a conversation. So doing that on the back end versus feeling like social media is such a job and that we have to show up so that we feel desperate for the clients. But I feel like if you approach it in a strategic way, have a plan for your content. Your content is going to do the heavy lifting, right? To get them into your ecosystem. And then you have a plan to follow up with them or invite them to a call or invite them to your offer. And so I like to look at it in that way and not so much of, oh, look, this person is doing this or this person is doing that. I try to push all that to the side and just use it for the tool that it is and know that what I'm sharing is valuable to other people and it's real. So no matter who's real or fake, I'm real, right? You're real. So that's how I try to help my clients approach that.
So good. And what I was just thinking is like your power as a visibility coach. And then when someone responds in a comment, they are mirroring that they feel seen by you and what you just said and allowing themselves to be seen. So then when you respond to them, like they're in your ecosystem, like they are showing up saying, wow, like you called me up, like I feel that. I like, like how just the power in that feeling. And something I was thinking about earlier is you were saying that your first job coming out of healthcare and like, doing all the things and following the runway of but you were working for a beauty brand and you were their digital marketing strategist or something like that, right?
Yes.
And beauty is so interesting because, and social media and Instagram especially, and the whole beauty, Bentley is basically a variation on beauty, right? It's like the whole look, beauty thing versus real beauty, it's actually a feeling. So, like, you can sell a product that makes you look great, but if when you buy the product and you put it on your face feels like cakey and you're sweating, like it's not gonna go viral. It's not gonna keep selling. So, I think there's that connection between like what we put out, what you see, the visibility, but that it really has to have this like deep connection to the heart and the actual feeling. Would you touch on that for a minute?
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to go viral and they want like the followers and things. And that's like a feeling, like you said, right? You want to feel good because people liked your post. But what about if your content just have context, right? That it's value to other people, that it can help them maybe transform something or learn something new. And so I like to go into it not thinking about that virality or not thinking about I need 10,000 followers and that makes you feel good, but content that has context and value. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. I think, yes, of course, with things like beauty, we want to say, oh, we can't post this because it doesn't look aesthetically pleasing or anything like that. I like to help my clients think of let's post this content, right? It may not be perfect, but your message is going to get across and you're going to reach the right people. So that's how I like to approach that and not look at it at the vanity metrics or your follower growth because all of your followers are not a real part of like your community, right? It's only a select few people that are going to probably convert. So I like to go into it thinking about it like that.
So good. I heard something recently about the vibration of authenticity. I don't know if you've heard this or not, but like basically that there's this spectrum. And so each emotion, joy, fear, love, authenticity is actually like a feeling, right? It's an emotion and it vibrates 400 times greater than love. That's very interesting, especially when we take that into this digital ecosystem and we look at like, some of the viral like love hate stuff that like ends up coming out, right? But when you really get to the heart of the matter, it's actually coming down to authenticity, like people authentically having these different feelings. When you're working with clients, and for those listening who are thinking about posting or whether or not to comment and be seen and all of those things, do you have suggestions? Like I loved your blinders about like I'm going into this as a tool. Like I am not going down the rabbit hole. And especially when we're using it as a business, it's like I got to get in, I got to get out. I got 20 minutes, like and then I got other things to do because I want to get back to being present to my children, you know what I mean? But like, do you have certain guidelines that you're seeing and you've been at this for, almost 20 years? In today's climate, do you have suggestions about like steer clear of certain topics? I would love to hear your take on that.
Well, I don't think I would say like steer clear of certain topics. I think that depends on your brand, like what your brand represents, right? Because personally, me, like I'm not going to get in any politics or anything like that. Like I'm not using social media for that. So I think it depends on what you're using social media for because I know politicians and people who are, campaigning and they're using social media in that
Mm.
way to help reach their target audience. So it just really depends on what you want your brand to be represented as. One thing that I have been thinking about and really focusing on is young girls and
Mm.
approaching using social media as a tool. So maybe talking to young girls and their parents because now in today's age it's a little bit different. Like my daughter, she's 11 and she's actually a basketball player. And if you may be into women's sports, women's basketball, but it's huge right now, right? And so the opportunity is getting younger and younger for young ladies and gentlemen to build a personal brand. And you just want to be very strategic and think about what you put out online because it really never goes away, right?
Yeah.
It really never goes away. So think of it as like your personal resume. And if you wouldn't want your grandma to see it on Instagram, would you post it? So I'm not posting anything that I wouldn't want my mom to see. I'm not posting that. So yes, people may look at my Instagram and feel like you know me, You do, but you only know a small percentage. I'm not sharing my whole entire life, right? And I think that's where a lot of people get, oh, I don't want to share everything, but you don't have to share everything. You can actually be strategic in how you share your life online to still connect with people, to still be authentic, but not to overshare and to feel like it's just too much. And so I think looking at it as a resume for any future endeavors is a great way to look at social media as a tool.
Oh my gosh, so good. So good. Wow. And I'm just thinking about like what you said, it's out there forever. And this really is, these are the resumes of today. I mean, when I have folks who are interviewing with me for a job, you better believe I'm kind of checking out what they're putting out there on their social media. Because if they're saying, and I remember this one situation specifically where she was like, my Friday night view, and it was like the inside of a toilet, like she was like getting sick, had too much kind of a thing. I'm like, really, we're in a health club. Like this is not, this is not a match. And what we're putting out there as it pertains to our personal brand, but also like really our calling, our message, and it can change. Like it can pivot, but it's like just like a musician whose music in their early, it might sound like this, and then later it can kind of change and they pick up the eras, right? Different eras. But it's like we too change. Our personal brand changes. You better believe in my 20s, I was doing things, that like in my 40s, nah. And so the responsibility, though, as parents, now that, because I've got two young girls too, so you're like totally preaching to the choir here. And I'm thinking about, what I put out there, even it might be a cute, like, ooh, they're like boogering toddlers kind of a thing, but like one day they're going to be an insecure 12-year-old and their friends are going to pull that up and like tease them for eating their boogers because I posted that, like maybe don't post that. So, what are you thinking about as a parent? In terms of like supporting your daughter or any parent out there listening about what to or to not post.
Yeah, no, I'm with you because I don't want my daughter to be 15 and say, Mom, you posted that picture of me and it was so embarrassing. So, with my daughter, me and my husband actually run her page. Again,
Mhm.
she's 11. She's not even supposed to have a social media, right? And so we run her page. And I think it's important. And some parents may agree, some parents may not agree, but I don't. My daughter doesn't even have a phone. She's 11. She doesn't need a phone. She has an iPad and she doesn't need a phone, in my personal opinion. She's not going to be with anybody else, and some people may not agree with that, but social media is such also a place not for 11-year-old, in
Yeah.
my personal opinion. I think you need the right mindset and to be able to explain to your children what social media is about and what it's not. And we have to start there. But I personally wouldn't share, my husband wouldn't share anything on my daughter's page that doesn't represent her and her sport and what she's doing. So she is a up and coming basketball player and we're building her brand surrounding basketball. And so a lot of the things that we share is, her skills, her basketball and what she's doing, the different things we've gotten invited to, because she's actually gotten to go on brand trips already and she's 11. So she's gotten brand deals, work with Foot Locker and things like that. And so I am going to be her momager, managing her brand when she does get to college and beyond, because as you know, there are name, image, likeness is now into play. And now college students and high school student and athletes can get paid for being a personal brand. So this is why I'm saying it's important. If you're listening and you have children who are playing sports, you don't have to pay for them to go to college. There are kids making millions of dollars to go to college. And so if you know this and if I know this, why am I not putting my child on, right? And so that's what another area of our marketing and agency that me and my husband have been focusing on is really helping student athletes with their personal brands as well, and their parents, because my husband is a fellow educator. He has been in sports and a coach for over 20 plus years. And so it's just something that we're very passionate about. So yes, um, social media is a great place, but maybe not for the young kids at this time.
Well, and that's so powerful. And I'm just thinking for our listeners and for those, I mean, I can think of a particular retired basketball coach professor who's going to love this one. You know who you are listening. But it's like the power of personal branding and highlighting, like really shining a light on this is what's important and this is what I want you to look at. And that we can't control the field. Like people are going to look at things and do things and all of that stuff. When you have, let's say, haters come on or like comments, how do you manage those? Do you have any like, and I'm sort of skipping subjects here, but I'm so moved by that and like what you're doing with your daughter. And I think for this next generation, I was reading a really interesting statistic today that I believe between 2000 and 2024, something like that, our face-to-face interactions as adults decreased by 35%. And among teenagers, so like younger people in during that time, it decreased by 45%. So like the way we present ourselves, the way we get around, like the way we talk isn't like it used to be, you know? So I just think the importance of the protection and social media is such a demonstration of that, where people will post these comments that they would never say to your face, you know, and there's no tone. You're like, wow, really? And I've seen a lot of podcasters and influencers like take a hate comment and like use it for a whole riff podcast, you know, to like let me reintroduce myself because you clearly don't know me, you know? What's your take on that and how do you use it? Because the other thing I've heard, and for those listening, is like if you don't have haters yet, you're not really saying anything.
Yeah. Fortunately for me, I'm going to be really honest. I have had very few negative comments and haters. I mean, I'm sure they're out there. But that's the thing about me. I do not want to go viral. I don't want what
Mm.
comes with that. I've had clients who have went viral and have huge accounts, and the amount of hate comments made me sick to my stomach. And so
Yeah.
that's another part of social media that I just hate because, like you said, people, you're going to be behind this computer or whatever. You wouldn't say it to my face. And so, me as a person, I just try to look at the positive of social media. I try not to even think about the haters when people do comment. I'm just going to delete their comments.
Mm,
And I understand how, some creators will take the negative comments and make it content. But for me personally, I feel like when you do that, you're giving that other person light. You're making shining the light on them. Let them hate. Let them hate.
mm,
At the end of the day, if they had to do something like that and you're trying to actually be out here helping people, sharing your mission, and if somebody has to hate on that, it's their problem. I like the book by Mel Robbins. Let them, let them.
let them.
So that's what I do with everything. Let them. I'm not going to feed into it. I'm not going to share, about that. And so fortunately, I have had very few negative comments. I mean, when they do come across, I'm gonna, delete them and just not put too much energy into it. But the same thing with my daughter. I will make sure I try to shield her as much as possible. And I know sometimes we cannot, okay, but to the best of my ability, I'm going to try. And any negativity, I'm just going to ignore it. Period.
Mm, mm, totally. And then there are things like, you know, my last guest was talking about this. We can't protect our children from death, right? Like we can't. And so it's like, it's this balance. And I feel like, especially because it's turning on all of this stuff in the brain, this addictive stuff, especially for these younger kids who are like, I don't want to go out. I'm just going to stay home and watch, do games, you know? And it's like we're losing that connection. So, what are you doing to like drive towards real? And this is where I love things like basketball because guess what? You can't play basketball online. You know, it's like you got to get into the court. You got to have a real coach who's seeing your energy, who when you fall, they give you a hand up and say, "Yeah, you know, turned left, should turn right," you know, whatever. It's like what other things and you know, from parenting, but also working with your clients, are you doing to support people getting back into real life connection? Because I feel like we're having this huge, like, consciousness shift back because we're like overloaded.
Mhm. So this is a really good question, and I'm actually hosting more in-person experiences so that we can get in the room. When we were talking before, I said I'm a natural born connector and I love connecting people, especially other women entrepreneurs. So, what I have been doing to, like you said, combat that, because we have been in the house. We've been in the house since 2020. I remember when COVID happened, I was like, oh, wow, this is real. When the stores started closing, I was looking like, oh my God, like, okay, this is getting real. But now I think more people are starting to crave that in person interaction and that connection. And so, I have been building experiences, events, retreats, networking opportunities to get in person and to really connect. So I've been doing that in my community. I've been doing it in my retreats all over the US, and I'm going to take that international soon, but also just hosting events. I just got off of a networking event. It was online, but I kind of feel like in that I invite people to my outside networking opportunities too. So using those to invite to those outside networking events. And for my daughter, we look at different communities, camps, and things like that. It's surrounding basketball, and we always get out to go to things. We love to go to basketball games, WNBA games, any networking events that I can go to, summits, all those opportunities. I'm finding more ways to get out the house. Tomorrow, I'm going to lunch with a friend. Just get out the house and get back into that in person connection.
Oh, for sure. And I know you have a retreat coming up. Do you want to tell folks what it's about? And we'll put all the links in the show notes, but tell us about this next one and like how are the retreats that you're leading bringing you back into your own connection, like reawakening you?
Yeah, so I have a retreat coming up in January in Scottsdale. And if you haven't been to Scottsdale, it's a vibe. I like to start January off there because the air there is just so different. It's like a clean air to renew. And so this is my third annual retreat, Wealthy Women's Weekend. And so January 9th through 12th, 2026, I'll be hosting that in Scottsdale, bringing together 6 women to stay in a luxury villa to really focus in on our businesses, number one, and also to focus in on our offers and what we're offering in our sales and just really having a good time in community with other women. We're going to have a photo shoot because, of course, we love content. So, getting some content for our businesses, but also being able to connect. And so, that is how I am helping women in that aspect, just bringing them together. Retreats are my favorite thing because I love to travel and being able to do that and just bring other women together is just it's just the best feeling ever. So yes, if you want to join me in Scottsdale, definitely, I would love, love, love for you to join me. And we will leave all the information for you. But I am super excited about January 2026.
Heck yeah, me too. I actually have a TEDx talk in January 2026. So like listeners, a lot going on that month. Like just it's gonna be a cool year, 2026. But whatever happens next year is all built on the work we're doing today and like in these months. And I know folks are gonna want to learn more about you and follow you, and you've got so many different ways to follow you. What are your like top two social media things or, podcasts? Like, what are your top two or three? And then what would you say are the ones that maybe you're phasing out or not putting as much attention into right now and why?
So Instagram is definitely one of my top platforms. My podcast is also a top platform and webinars. So I'm leaning into those weekly webinars. I used to have a free Facebook community, but I'm kind of sunsetting that. I really want to focus on different streams. And so I'm kind of sunsetting that Facebook group, not really leaning into that. But YouTube is actually on the rise. I know so many people have been talking about that, and I'm getting back into my YouTube bag. And so I hope to definitely film more YouTube videos in 2026 and use it as a lead generation tool for my business. And so those are the areas that I'm really focusing on, especially for 2026. Definitely Instagram, definitely my podcast, and definitely webinars. But yeah, I think for anyone listening, you have to stick with what works best for your actual business, whether that is Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and just really find your digital ecosystem.
Totally. Now, Instagram and webinars and your podcast, like how are you leading people into your webinars?
So yes, I actually been using Eventbrite a lot. Eventbrite has brought me a lot of great leads, and so I've been really leaning into Eventbrite a lot. and just sharing on my social platforms and my email list to really get people into my ecosystem. A lot of people that follow me on Instagram, I invite them to my webinars and challenges as well. And so I'm creating like that funnel, right? Because Instagram and a lot of these tools are the top of the funnel app, not to get technical, but it's where people see you and then they come into your world and then you convert them. A lot of people may or may not buy straight from Instagram or lock in with you from there or join your community or whatever it is. They want to get to know you. And so building out that ecosystem in your funnels, simple. Okay. I don't believe in complex anything. So it can be really simple on how you lead people through the journey.
Oh, so good. Thank you for taking us on this journey today. Like you are a breath of fresh air. Like you are Sedona. I know you're in Chicago and I've lived in Chicago and I know how January Sedona is like everyone in Chicago. I hope everybody can go. I know you only have 6 spaces, but like it's it's what we all need. And I think remembering to really tap into what's real for each of us in each moment, like whatever season that we're in, because we can get so distracted, right? And forget to be natural born connectors, which is how we're wired. So thank you so much, Michelle. Do you have any last takeaways you want to leave with our listeners? It's just been a joy to be with you.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Takeaways, just go for it. Even if you're scared, just go for it and be consistent. Consistency is the number one thing that most people don't have and they don't stick to it and that's why it doesn't work out. But I guarantee you, if it's anything that you do, if you're consistent, you'll be successful.
Amen, sister. Consistency for the win. All right, listeners, we'll hear you next time.